Let me start by congratulating you on making an incredible decision to join the Primerica team. What we're going to talk about today, we call an orientation. And I think out of all of the moving pieces in our business, this is absolutely one of the most important conversations that we could have. I mean, if you were to call me up and say, hey, my grandmother left me $1 million, could you help me invest that money? Honestly, I wouldn't take that conversation as serious as I would take our conversation today. If you really understand the things that we're going to talk about today, this could be something that changes the financial future for your family for generations. And ultimately, we all want a great ending to the story. We all want to build a big business. We all want to ride off into the sunset. But to have a great ending to the story, it obviously helps to have a great beginning. And to have a great beginning, I think we have to understand exactly what we're here to do. And I always use an analogy, a story I heard years ago about the railroad industry through the 20th century. And the analogy has everything to do with you and me talking about Primerica today. And what they were talking about is how, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, most of the wealthiest families in North America were in the railroad business. But by the year 2000, that wasn't the case anymore. And they were really digging in to find out why. And I think what they found was fascinating. What they found was that the people in the railroad business really misclassified the business that they were in. See, they were in the transportation business, but they only thought they were in the railroad business, and they missed the picture. So when the interstate highways got built and the trucking companies and the air freight and airplanes came along, well, those companies took most of the market share. Had the railroad folks known they were part of a bigger picture, well, they would have bought the planes and bought the trucks. They had the money. But instead, they put the resources into more rails and faster engines, more engineers, and they got beat. And you see that matters here because Primerica can look like a lot of different things to different people. I've talked to folks before that say, well, it kind of looks like an insurance business. And I say, yeah, kind of, but not really. Or I'll talk to somebody else and they'll say, well, it looks like an asset management or a brokerage business. I say it's sort of, but it's bigger than that. And see, the way that we perceive something determines the way we behave towards it, and the way we behave determines the outcomes that we get. And so in our industry, if you think about just the financial industry, there are some people as, let's just say, maybe narrow focused as building their entire practice just selling variable annuities. And we've got a couple of great variable annuity products at Primerica as well, but some people, that's all they do is just that product. And because of that, I think that their opportunity is limited. But if we take one step back and say, you know what, I'm not really in just the variable annuity business, I'm in the investment business, which means I can do variable annuities, but I could also do mutual funds and managed accounts. I could set up retirement plans or college accounts, and in which case you have much more opportunity because you're casting a bigger net. Or we could take one more step back and say, I'm not even just in the investment business, I'm really in the financial services business, which means I can do all of those investment solutions, but I could also do term insurance and auto and homeowner solutions and legal protection plans, in which case you have even more opportunity, or I believe take the biggest step back of all and say, I'm not even in the financial services business, I'm in the distribution of financial services business, which means not only can I do those things, but I could also recruit and train and license and develop 10, 20, 50, 100, 500 other people that can do all of those things, in which case you have the most opportunity of all. And you see, one of the things I want to talk about as we start this morning, and I think it's probably been one of the biggest challenges, at least of my business, and you might find it to be a challenge for you as well, is to get people who for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years that have been taught to think like an employee and all of a sudden get them to start thinking like a business owner. And I know for most people that goes in one ear and right out the other because we've been trained for so long to think a certain way. But let me assure you, these two creatures are entirely different people. See, an employee gets to go home every day at 5 o'clock even if the job's not done. But a business owner can't do that. An employee's favorite time of day is lunch. Business owners rarely take lunch. Usually I'll take my lunch to the office. I might take a client to lunch, but there's no way I'm going to waste an hour eating a sandwich when I've got a business to run. You see, just like a parent might make certain sacrifices for the benefit of their children, a business owner might make sacrifices for the benefit of their business. As a father, I will give up sleep so that my children can sleep better. I'll give up food so that my children can eat better. As a business owner, I'll give up some things so my business can run better. But an employee is never going to skip lunch to add more money to the bottom line. These are entirely different folks, and we have to approach this conversation through the mindset, through the eyes of a business owner. And I think it helps to start by stepping away from Primerica to begin with. And let's even step away from financial businesses altogether. Let's say that you and I have been friends since high school, and we've always had this dream of owning a restaurant together. I mean, like a really nice steakhouse, really fancy, not some, small little local chain. I mean, something really, really nice. Well, we can obviously have a great business plan, which is we want to be profitable in 3 years. We can have a great mission statement, which is we want to serve a great steak in a fun atmosphere. But at some point, we must take action or our dream stays a dream. So let's ask ourselves, what are the steps necessary to turn our dream into a reality? If we're going to go start a world-class steakhouse, what are some of the things we'd have to do? Well, I think if we thought this through, we would find out the very first thing we would have to do is find a great location. And you've heard that before, right? Location, location, location. We're probably going to have to dump all of our money right up front, building, getting the building, all the tables and the chairs, buying the steak, lobster, and the wine. We're probably going to spend $1 million or $2 million up front, but that's just how most folks start a great steakhouse. The second thing we're going to have to do is I do believe we're going to have to run it compliantly. So there are some licenses that we have to get. We got to make sure that we've got the right zoning permits. We've got to make sure that we've got the FDA inspections. There's no rats running around the kitchen. We've got to buy a liquor license. And most business owners are going to tell you that the red tape, well, that's the biggest pain in the backside. The third thing we'd have to do to run a great steakhouse is I think we're going to have to build a great team of people. We need some great folks working with us. Now, some people call that HR, some call it staffing. I like to call it build a team because it just sounds more fun. But if we're going to build a great steakhouse, we need a cook to cook, a server to serve, a hostess to host, a bartender to tend, a manager to manage. Because if it's you and me building a steakhouse, I promise you don't want me near the kitchen. And you and I are not going to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I would tell you at this point right here, this is probably the most important step of success in our business. Here's why. We can have a beautiful facility. We can have the best steak money can buy. But if our waitress is a jerk, they're not coming back. Worse yet, they're probably telling their friends not to bother wasting their time or their money. We have to have some great people around us. But then lastly, number 4, somebody has to eat the steak in order for us to make money. And so let's say we've got to build clients. Now, when you think about it, it only takes a couple of minutes to come up with the 4 steps necessary to run a great steakhouse. The bad news for you and me is we're not starting a steakhouse. So we have to ask ourselves, are these 4 steps simply unique to the restaurant industry, or are these 4 steps part of every North American business? And I think you'll agree with me that these 4 steps are pretty much part of every North American business. See, at Primerica, are you going to have a great location? Well, yeah, and at this point, you've probably seen one. You've probably been in a 2,500, 3,500, 4,500 square foot office with tables and chairs and desks and computers, fax machines, office personnel, fake trees. I mean, we've got it all. And the most expensive part of you running a business, somebody else took care of for you for now. But the other three things you are going to have to bring to the table. Are you going to have to get a license? Well, of course you are. And we can provide the classes and the material, and we might even be able to study with you one-on-one. We just can't show up and take the test for you. Are you going to have to build and maintain client relationships, a client base? Well, of course you are. Are you going to have to build a team of people? Well, yeah, if you want a big business. Now listen, you and I probably know that 9 out of 10 small businesses today fail. And they don't fail because the business owner makes so much money so fast. They fail because the business owner makes too many mistakes too fast. And hopefully you and I are people that learn from our own mistakes, but wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And one of the benefits we believe you're going to have working inside the Primerica system is you're going to have experienced trainers that have already walked this path. You're going to be able to learn from the things that we did right, but more importantly, from the things that we did wrong. I'm very happy to tell you some of the mistakes that I made. So it should go faster for you. It should go better for you because you've got a mentor helping you that can help you navigate this path successfully. But when I talk about mistakes in business, here's what I want to talk about. Some mistakes are just a slap on the wrist. Some mistakes are, hey, you can't really say it that way. Next time, say it like this. But some mistakes in business are fatal mistakes. There's just no overcoming some of the mistakes that you can make. And one of the biggest fatal mistakes I've seen in our business, at least in my experience, is people try to do one and then the other and then the other, as opposed to doing all 3 things at the exact same time. And I'm telling you, we have to do all 3 things at the exact same time. See, in a restaurant, it makes perfect sense. What happens in our steakhouse if we buy all of our steak months before our cook is ready to cook? Well, our steak goes bad. What if we have a cook and steak but no clients? We have cook steak that goes bad. What if we have a cooking clients but no steak? You get my point, right? You have to have all three. But that's not easy to see in my business. Sometimes people will look at the Primerica business and say, well, how could I possibly build a team or build a client base if I've not yet been licensed and trained? Which on the surface sounds pretty logical. But if we follow that logic through, if that's the path we go down, I think you get rocked here. You get crushed for a couple of reasons. I mean, number one, you don't ever know everything about everything. Even in life, every day is a journey. But number two, if that was really the path a person went down, you're going to get all your licenses, all your certifications before we ever go talk to anybody. For months, all you'll be doing is taking classes and reading textbooks and practice quizzes and tests, getting licensed. You'll be bored out of your mind. You'll quit from sheer boredom. I've seen it happen. Secondly, is we didn't help any families or serve any clients, so you didn't make any money, so you're bored and broke. And thirdly, we didn't recruit anybody or build a team of people, so we're bored, broke, and lonely, which is not exactly what we're going for. But let's say, against our advice, that's the path that you went down, and 6 months from now, you're still here because you were too hard-headed to quit, which at that point could be a bad thing, could be a good thing. But 6 months from now, you finally recruit your first person. Well, what are you going to teach that person to do? Probably the same thing that you just did. Why? Because the team takes on the characteristics of the coach. If you're a slow starter and a low producer, you're going to attract people that are slow starters and low producers. But if you're a fast starter and a high producer, well, then you'll probably attract people like that. So if I waited to do it, I got rocked. But the flip side of that exact same coin was what if it was up to me to build my own team and build my own client base out of the gate day one, I'm telling you, I absolutely would have failed here. I was a 20-year-old punk kid. I knew nothing about nothing when it came to building a business. I still would tell you I don't know nothing about nothing. I'm just not 20 years old anymore. So you look at this and say, if I wait to do it, it doesn't work. If I try to do it myself, it doesn't work. And here's why I tell you it didn't work. The reason that I wasn't able to be successful on my own is I had no clue how to build a business or build a team of people or be experienced in the financial business. The reason I'm telling you that our system is designed for success is my first 30 to 60 days, I didn't build my team or my client base. The person that recruited me, a person that had been in the business 18 years already, somebody that knew what they were doing and was experienced, they helped me build my team and build my client base. So all I did was introduce my trainer, watch, and take notes. So I took my trainer to see mom and dad. They asked questions. He answered their questions. I took notes. We went and saw some of my aunts and uncles. They asked similar questions. He answered their questions, and I took notes. So after 4 or 5 appointments, I had heard almost every question that could be asked, and I knew the answers. I was trained. So you're going to watch as we help you build a team of 3 or 4 or 5 licensed agents that are working with you. You get to watch as we help you build 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clients that have been helped by Primerica in a tremendous way that love our company. You're going to watch as we help you build 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 warm referrals of people that actually want to talk to you. So that you've got a little team in place, you've got some experience, you know what you're doing, you've made a little money, you've got some momentum, but best of all, you watched us do it. So that you can go from being a trainee to independent as a soloist, meaning you just don't need a trainer to go with you anymore. But more importantly, to go from a soloist to a trainer. And you see, it's really important to us that you see everything that we do and everything that we talk about, especially starting now, through our eyes as trainers. And here's why. If you're normal, you're going to be a trainee a relatively short period of time. But you could be a trainer the rest of your career. And it's important that you understand there is a method to our madness and see that there are going to be some times where you might be in a training class or you might be on a conference call or at a big event, or it might even happen before this video is over today. And we're going to say something that hits you funny. And you're going to say, that doesn't really make any sense. I have no idea why you would say it that way. It's not what I would say. And every time that happens, and trust me, it's going to happen, we have to come back to the same foundation. And that foundation is that most of us have never before been taught how to run a business successfully. I just think about me, for example, when I got my driver's license at 16 years old, I got my first real job. Dad said, you could drive, you could work. And I remember showing up, it was a small business, and at 16 years old, I was being taught how to be an employee, but I was being taught that by somebody who owned a small business. Now, why do you suppose that small business owner didn't teach me everything about their business so that I knew everything that they knew? Well, of course, right? I mean, if I knew what they knew in a few years, I'd go across town, open up a store, and I'd compete with them. So at 16, I'm being taught to be an employee by a small business owner. But at 18, I went off to college like everybody told me to do, and I was taking business classes, people teaching me how to run a business, but I was being taught by professors who are employees. So at 16, I'm being taught to be an employee by a business owner. At 18, I'm being taught to be a business owner by an employee. At Primerica was the first time in my life I could be taught how to be a business owner by a business owner. So if anything is weird, it's not this. Somebody paying $80,000 for a business degree being taught by somebody who's not running a business, that's messed up. Now listen, you and I both know business owners typically don't get paid for what they themselves do. Business owners get paid for what other people do. And you have the opportunity to get the best people to go to work for you today. Us. You see, we're very good at what we do. You see, we're not sure yet whether you can build a team or build a client base. I don't know, maybe let's say 50-50. But we know with 100% certainty that we can build a team and build a client base. So you can learn this business one of two ways. You can learn this business watching us build our teams and our client base, or you can learn this business watching us build your team and your client base, which obviously makes the most sense.